All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, September 13th, and this is a meeting to check in on active development tasks for Backdrop CMS. We have open ticket number 442 for the Backdrop CMS.org website that is about improving modules, themes, and layouts. That issue hasn't had any momentum in a while. It needs some attention. So if anybody has any time or interest in working on backdropcms.org, that is where we would love to focus effort. So I'm not going to say much more about that because we talked about it in the last meeting, but it is an ongoing issue we would love to resolve. I don't know if there's any updates on translation site. I haven't talked to Olaf recently. I know we got, Jeff, were you helping him with that this past week, or was that Justin?
There is activity. Olaf and Robert are working together, and so I'm not exactly sure what they're doing, but there is movement. Okay. They did get past that database issue. I know that.
Okay, great. So they're doing something. We don't know what they're doing. Hopefully it's going well. If not, hopefully they'll ask.
Translating.
All right, so that is all I have for Backdrop CMS website. So let's turn it over to Nate for an update on Backdrop CMS, the project.
All right. Well, 2 days until 1.11 comes out, which is pretty exciting. We're in a really excellent position as far as having our code stabilized and well tested, and not having a whole lot of outstanding issues that need to be resolved before 1.11. In fact, we don't actually have any real issues that need to be resolved before 1.11, but we have some ones that we would like to, have basically. But let's rewind a little bit and talk about 1.10, the current minor version, and what the status is on it. We still have not released 1.10.2. We've got a huge bucket of fixes that are now in that bug fix release for 1.10. Let's see, it looks like, well, pretty huge. There's 30 issues that have been merged into 1.10. And then there's a good, looks like 27 additional issues that we could potentially get into that minor version, but almost everything is currently has a pull request, but does not. But all of them need work at this point. So 1.10, we have a large number of items that have been fixed and another bucket of items that could potentially be fixed. But because the last release of 1.10, other than security fixes, will be coming out day after tomorrow at the same time as 1.11 comes out, it's not really worth our time to make 1.10.2 and then immediately make 1.10.3 afterwards. So we're holding off on the release of 1.10.2 until day after tomorrow, and it'll come out the same time as 1.11 does with all of those fixes in there. It also means that right now, if you're looking to contribute or to get things in, to help stabilize 1.11, the best place to find issues right now to work on is actually in the 1.10.2 release milestone, because that's the current minor version, and that's where all of our immediate bug fixes that we're trying to attempt, that's where they're all stored. So there's 29 issues in that particular queue, but if you look in the 1.11 queue, which is all just basically features or bugs related to the new features, there's only 3 or 4 issues in the 1.11 queue, which is awesome. That's where we want to be. So if you're looking for things to contribute on right now, rather than looking at 1.11, look at 1.10 and 1.10.2 in particular for issues to work on. I don't have any issues I'd like to call out there. It's all just kind of, little bugs and things that need to be resolved in the current bug fix release. So we're in a great position as far as cutting that last bug fix release. We're also in a great position for 1.11. Like I just said, there's only 4 issues in the 1.11 issue tracker right now. We'll make a 1.11.1 milestone pretty shortly here, because anything that doesn't get into 1.10 will end up getting bumped into 1.11. But for now, there isn't a bug fix milestone on that. The two issues that I'd like to call out that would be nice to get resolved have to do with the colorizing of the basis theme. There's issue 3209, in which we're trying to add predefined color schemes for basis, just giving some out-of-the-box color options for basis. And then an issue that's related to that one is 3286, which is adding the ability to make it so that the primary tabs in basis have a separate color picker. I think that's what that one is. And I imagine these two issues are related, that potentially we had someone that was trying to make color schemes for basis and then realized that they were having a hard time making ones that looked good because of this lack of a discrete color for the primary tabs. And so we ended up with that issue being created probably in response to an attempt to make color schemes. So both of those issues are related to color module and basis's colorization in particular. And those are the two issues that we'd like to probably see resolved before 1.11, but all things considered, that's not a showstopper. That's actually it kind of for 1.11. We're in the nice, actually kind of chill zone, like the calm before the storm, because we've gotten everything pretty well put away for the next release. It's now just kind of letting the clock tick by until what would be Saturday is when we'll be doing the release due to our calendar-based release cycle. And on Saturday the 15th, that's when we'll be cutting these two releases. So, Jeff, are you going to be around on Saturday? What about you, Jen?
I think so.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. We can maneuver it with fewer people, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing when something like this lands on a weekend.
It's both.
It's both, yeah.
Well, how does the timing of that usually work?
Well, we normally start in what would be the West Coast morning, like around 10 or 11 a.m. And then we like to be done before 4 p.m. Pacific. I think generally that's the way that goes. We've had some that have happened within an hour, actually. We've kind of gotten it into, thanks to our process checklist where we go through each individual item. It's actually turned into a pretty smooth running machine. So what we'll do at the very beginning of the day is we'll open up, actually we could do this right now, in fact, open up an issue that is like the checklist for making the releases. And then we'll assign them all out, and then we'll post the link into Gitter and say, hey, we're starting. And then yeah, we'll both update in Gitter and check off each individual task like as we get it completed.
Is there any relatively non-technical things that you'd need help with on Saturday?
Yes.
Like things that I could do?
Absolutely, actually. So, Jen, do you want to enumerate some of those things that we have that?
Sure. So I'm going to post a link into Gitter for where our procedure documents are stored. They're in the issues code repository. So we have this backdrop issues repository that has code associated with it, but doesn't actually have any code. So we're using that for documentation for the issue queue. So we have one link here for a bug fix release, and we have another one for a minor release. And there are a handful of things on here where I have names assigned to various people, like writing a blog post to highlight all of the fantastic changes that went into whatever the latest version is. Anyone can write the blog post. Ideally, it would be done before Saturday so that we could have like a draft up, and all we would have to do when we release is publish it. So that's definitely something that, we don't really need anyone with any like code merging ability to do that. You just have to kind of go to the sandbox for the pull request and take a screenshot of the new feature, and then write a paragraph that's like, we've added this new thing, and then paste in the screenshot, and it's pretty straightforward. There's also some stuff at the end, like updating the Wikipedia articles, or tweeting, updating the front page on backdropcms.org. There's a handful of things that are just kind of busy tasks that we would love to get more people working on. So if you want to do any of those things, just, I would say, let me know, and I'll add your name to the list of people who would like to have these tasks assigned to them. And then that way, for every release, if you're available and like Gregory isn't, we can use you instead of him for some of these tasks. So
I'll plan to be available for at least like 2 hours on
okay.
Saturday, like 12 to 2 roughly, but I'll check in with you.
Okay, that'll be great.
So that'd be like 10 to noon your time.
Okay.
And maybe longer, but at least at the minimum 2 hours.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's the big thing. Of course, we've got these new releases coming out day after tomorrow, and that's the key item on our agenda. We've started bucketing things for 1.12, which will be the next minor release, and that will come out next year. Woo! January 15th, 2019. And the items that we've got for 1.12 right now mostly just consist of things that got bumped from 1.11. We want to continue working on core automatic updates. The meta issue is 2018. A recap of that and a reminder is that we did make it so that you can update core via the user interface in 1.11, but that functionality is disabled out of the box, and you have to go in and turn it on manually by editing a config file right now. Hopefully for 1.12, we'll be able to expose that option directly in the user interface to make that available for everybody. We also have some other issues related to core updates that I won't recap now. Let's see, tags for modules, issue number 37 got bumped. It has a pull request though, it currently needs review. We had a real strong sprint right at the end of 1.11, the current release cycle for putting options element in core, issue 1005. And this one looks really strong, actually. It's one of those things that I was like, oh man, could we make that happen for this release? And yeah, we probably could have, but it was such a rush all at the last minute that it probably was a good idea to hold off on that. So that's been an issue that's stuck around for a while. And everybody seems to agree that it would be a great improvement, but we haven't actually revisited it anytime recently. So it currently needs work, but it's in really great shape. And also an area that received a lot of attention this release cycle was fieldable file types or file bundles, issue 2632. And that's a huge swath of functionality that takes a lot of the file entity module and media module and puts it into core. Currently needs work, but not from a technical standpoint, mostly just a user experience standpoint. Like the port from Drupal 7, although almost perfect in its conversion over to Backdrop, at least as far as my technical review has gone, looks great. There's just some inherited issues that we got as far as the UX is concerned, moving that functionality into core. So I think that we need to find some ways to better integrate it into core, or at least provide description text on how certain things are used and how they're different from options in Backdrop core currently. Make it a little less bolted on and more integrated, basically. So those are 4 issues that we have that have been bumped from 1.11. And yeah, we're in a great place for those. We'll see after the release what other items we're targeting for 1.12. We're actually open to suggestions at this point in time. It's not uncommon for us to take requests, basically, for things that could potentially receive attention. It's also a good time to go back and look at the items that we've attempted in previous releases that didn't make it and revisit them and see if we want to reprioritize them for the next release. Let's see. We do have a roadmap on backdropcms.org. It's backdropcms.org/roadmap that will probably need to get updated kind of as soon as possible, because that is actually also one of the tasks in the checklist, I believe, is to update the roadmap. And right now for 1.11, like, we don't have anything. Our roadmap wasn't even updated for the current release. That's not good. So anyway, we need to add some things that says what we did in 1.11 and kind of where we're headed towards 1.12. Because from the looks of things right now, I mean, when we started this project, we had so many things that needed to be done. It was obvious where we were headed. And now that we've done all of the things that we set out to do in the early releases, the future is a little bit more nebulous as far as, you know, where we're heading. But I think things like automatic updates, for example, we know that we want, we should state those things publicly. Okay, that's it for the product update. Let's see. On the agenda next up, we've got Backdrop for Good, the volunteer project that Jeff is heading up. Do you want to give any kind of update on that?
I know there's also been activity there from Hack from Western Mass people. I'm not sure if Laren has done anything, but basically the update there is there has been activity. And as always, if you want to contribute, take a look at that repo, click on that link in the agenda.
Jeff, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I think I asked you this in DC, but I forgot the answer. Is there any kind of like a distribution you guys are building or something like that, or are you just working on that one specific site?
This is just one site.
Okay, so it's totally catered to that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Next up, we've got some general discussion and Q&A. Looks like one item that has come up is issue number 62, which isn't an old issue that may be time to be revisited, and that's dropping support for some old versions of PHP. Right now, Backdrop still supports PHP 5.3, which is, let's see, I think that they're, it's not actually listed in this particular issue, but I think that they're 5.3 in theory is actually still supported by CentOS. I think is the last holdout until 2020. I think that that's true, but PHP 5.3 has long been unsupported by the PHP official community and is also no longer supported in the LTS releases of Ubuntu, Red Hat, or Debian. And so it's basically everybody. So it's a good idea for us to take a look at, determining if 5.3, is something that we can drop. It really would be great if we had the telemetry data to tell us how many backdrop sites were out there still running 5.3. But that's an issue that we haven't completed yet. So discussion. Do you guys want to have anything you guys want to bring up about that in particular?
I would be concerned about dropping support because I'm running Backdrop on some shared hosting providers, and some of them default to the oldest version of PHP they support. So that means that people who don't know any better using something like Bluehost when they install Backdrop would get an initial failure because the PHP version that it gives you is not the right one. And you can dig around in there and find the PHP version settings and change it. I just think that that's not, until PHP 5.3 goes away, it might be good to not drop support for it.
Maybe that's what we should use as our telemetry then. Like if Bluehost still defaults to PHP 5.3, we should keep it. You know what I mean? Like that's
kind of open a ticket with Bluehost and get them to change that faster.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if there's other shared hosts that do it, but if we had a kind of hit list of Bluehost and whatever else, and then we could just eyeball and then see like if you spin up a site, if they start defaulting to PHP 5.5 or something, that could be our tipping point maybe.
Yeah, that's really the key thing is, if it's even possible to use 5.3 on a new site, like it's getting to the point that it's getting hard, honestly. Like it's difficult to even maintain a server that has PHP 5.3 because the operating systems moving forward, like it's not even possible on a lot of them to install such an old version of PHP. Like the package managers basically will just refuse to do it because of the dependency chain on it. So I'm actually kind of surprised that any shared host even has that as an option these days. It's getting, because like I said, it's getting downright difficult to even do it. Okay, well let's continue discussing that one in an issue. I definitely think it's worth revisiting.
What exactly does it mean to drop support? Is there any deprecated code you would remove, or would you just remove it from or change the requirements page?
It's more than the requirements page. We actually have a kill switch in the very top of Bootstrap that says if your version of PHP is not new enough, then it totally white screens on you and just says your version is too old. And right now that version is PHP 5.3.2. If you're lower than that, Backdrop just refuses to function, essentially. Kevin, do you want to add anything?
Well, I was just going to say that, not that we didn't know we should upgrade, but at larger institutions, and I'm guessing the hosting providers are the same way, there ends up being a lot of moving parts. It's not just the CMS that impacts the version of Red Hat or CentOS that you're running. And so being as big and trying to be as forward-looking as possible, the fact that we only got off of it 9 months ago might give you some indication of how prevalent it still is. So I don't know. Deprecating it seems like an obvious move and nagging people that it's going to end long before it does. But killing it altogether, you might end up alienating a few people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's continue discussing. Oh, you know what else is a good benchmark is WordPress support for old versions of PHP. So if WordPress has dropped support, then it's one of the most backwards compatibility oriented projects out there. And once they drop support, it's like, well, that's the tipping point for a lot of shared hosts, basically, as far as like the chicken and the egg. Like, does the software get updated or do the servers get updated? I think that WordPress has actually already done that, said no more.
For WordPress.
It was at version 2.4?
5.2.4.
Oh, you're saying they still support PHP 5.2?
Yeah.
Or maybe they haven't updated their requirements page because they haven't updated their licensing page. So I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, I know there was some hubbub about dropping some old PHP versions, but it might be in the next version of WordPress, the one that is, a long time coming, that in which they do that shift. That's probably what I would guess. Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, their requirements page doesn't actually show you the requirements. It's actually just like recommendations.
It's in the middle of a paragraph of text.
Is it?
Yeah.
Any server that supports PHP and MySQL will do. Is that what it is? They basically don't even specify it.
WordPress also works with PHP 5.2.4 and above, and MySQL 5 and above. But these versions have reached official end of life and may expose your site to security vulnerabilities.
Wow. Yeah, that really is buried in the middle of the page.
Note.
Yes, note. I also kind of like that they say it basically will run on anything. Any version of PHP and MySQL you can reasonably install, it will probably work on, which is pretty accurate. Okay. Yeah, let's continue discussing. in the issue queue. It's not something that will happen right away. Let's see. Jen, anything else? You put these release checklists into?
Yeah, I drafted the release checklist issues, and I added your name to a couple of things. If there's things you don't want to do, let me know. Some of them I'll have to make you an admin on backdropcms.org in order to edit the homepage version number. I can do that and walk you through where that is. And then Jeff, I added you as being responsible for 1.10.2, but I wasn't sure which things Nate did and which things you do, so maybe the two of you should have a chat about who's changing the version number so that you're not both changing the version number on your different releases at the same time. But in general, I took a stab at first pass assignments, but let me know if it's wrong.
Yeah, something we've done before is that we'll split up. One of us will take the minor release and one of us will take the bug fix release.
I think that's what I tried to do. But no, you can't do them at the same time if you're both. The minor release has to go first, right?
The bug fix release should go first. Yeah, so that date-wise, the minor release comes after it. Yeah. Okay. Jen, could we also get updating the roadmap as part of the minor release process list? Since I mentioned it, I realized that it wasn't even on there.
Okay.
And that's another good task that anybody can handle, basically.
Post-release tasks or release tasks?
Post-release tasks, yeah. Although determining what's in the next version, probably shouldn't be, just a release task. That's probably something that we need to decide as a larger community.
Well, I'm one of the pre-release tasks.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else would like to add? Okay. Well, we've only got 2 days left. There's not a whole lot to tackle, but it's always good to work through the backlog of bugs that we've got. That, like I said, the 1.10.2 milestone is the key place to look. Also, the 1.11 queue, which only has these 4 issues, in particular these 2 related to color module. It would be great to get those, more eyeballs and more suggestions into those issues. But we're in a great place for 1.11. It'll be an exciting couple of days, and then sally forth.
In your last couple releases, how does it go afterwards? Has it been pretty smooth, or is there a little flurry of minor bugs?
And usually we make a bug fix release we usually do a bug fix release 1 or 2 weeks after the minor release, and at that time, that's also when we update the Pantheon upstream. And so we like to give a grace period to get it out there amongst people that are updating their sites directly before we kind of forcibly push it out to the audiences that use automatic tools like Pantheon. So,
Do you find there are quite a few people who update pretty quickly, or not? Do you start getting feedback pretty quick? Or?
Yeah, we get feedback almost immediately the day of. The feedback starts coming in right away.
Okay.
Nate, do you have the fact that you delay the Pantheon updates documented somewhere?
It's usually in these checklists, I think, the post-release tasks. Let's see.
No, but I mean, for someone using Pantheon, this is the first I've heard of this. We were expecting to see those updates like we do the Drupal and WordPress ones the day they're released. So I'm just not a huge deal.
It would be good for us. I think we should document that probably in the Pantheon upstream itself, at least in the GitHub repository, describe the fact that we have that delay in there. Because I don't think it is widely documented. It is just the way that we've done every release thus far, though. the minor releases have a delay on them. Bug fix releases come out immediately. It's only the minors that we leave a little grace period on.
Okay, I can create an issue for that in the Pantheon queue.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Yeah. Yay. Great release cycle. It might be too early to celebrate entirely. Next week we'll do the high fives. So, okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining again. Thanks everybody out there for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the other side of the release. So, see you guys.
Bye.